go, Mr. Driver!
The NES was basically dominating the home console market at the time. Everyone and their grandma has heard of the Nintendo, but if you say Master System, they'd think of some sci-fi AI villain, and not the Sega competitor to the NES. That said though, the Master System has an amazing library of games that rival the NES, and sometimes even surpass the NES. So here are 15 Master System games that still feel ahead of their time. Sonic the Hedgehog, 8-bit. So in 1991, many people assumed the 8-bit version, which was released a few months after the original 16-bit version on the Genesis, was basically a demake, the same game just trimmed down so it runs on older hardware. But this version, developed by Ancient, a completely different studio from the original, is also completely different from the original Genesis version. I'm talking new maps, new zones, and a design that's more like a traditional platformer than the hold right and occasionally jump of the original. The story is the same. You play as Sonic, who must free forest critters trapped in robots and collect the 6 Chaos Emeralds to stop Robotnik. While the physics attempt to replicate the momentum-based gameplay of the original, the 8-bit version is much more focused on platforming and exploration. The levels are tighter, more vertical, and often require careful jumps rather than blind speed. The Chaos Emeralds are hidden in Act 2 of each zone, so you have to carefully explore the whole level to find them. OutRun, 1987. Bringing the arcade to the living room was the promise of game consoles, but unfortunately, most of these consoles are just shadows of their more powerful cabinet counterparts. The Master System version of OutRun is surprisingly faithful to the arcade version. For those of you who don't know, unlike traditional racers, OutRun has you playing a dude in a sweet cherry red Ferrari Testarossa convertible, taking your girlfriend on a cross-country road trip. You're against the clock to keep the drive interesting and your date interested. The gameplay structure was revolutionary for 1987. Instead of a linear set of tracks, OutRun features a branching path system. At the end of each stage, the road splits. Turn left for an easier route, or turn right for a greater challenge. This creates a pyramid of 15 different stages leading to 5 unique endings, offering a level of replayability and non-linearity that you don't see in racing games at all. With the superscalar technology, this 8-bit system is able to get that faux 3D driving experience OutRun is known for. Phantasy Star, 1987. JP, 1988. US EU. Released just 2 days after the original Final Fantasy in Japan, Phantasy Star was Sega's primary candidate in the burgeoning console RPG genre. Phantasy Star introduced a new science fantasy setting, seamlessly blending space travel, laser guns, and robotic troopers with traditional swords and magic, establishing a unique aesthetic that would define the series for decades. You play as Alice, who witness the death of her brother Nero at the hands of the tyrannical King Lasix robot police. Her quest for revenge evolves into a galaxy-spanning adventure across the Algol solar system, taking you to 3 fully distinct planets: the lush Earth-like Palma, the desert world Motavia, and the ice planet Dezores. The story features significant plot twists, permanent character deaths, and a fight against unbeatable odds that create a story that's only really matched by Final Fantasy. Gameplay-wise, Phantasy Star is a standard turn-based RPG with a top-down view overworld and a first-person dungeon crawler, just like the RPG giants, like Ultima. Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap, 1989. You'd be surprised to learn that Wonder Boy 3 is considered to be the Metroid of the Master System. Developed by Weston, this game is widely considered the technical and design pinnacle of the 8-bit era, seamlessly blending action, platforming, and light RPG elements into a cohesive open world. Heck, it even begins like Symphony of the Night, where you control a fully powered up Wonder Boy storming the Mecha Dragon's castle, where upon defeating the boss, you are cursed by its dying breath and stripped of your gear, transforming into a weak, fire-breathing lizard man. The rest of the game is a quest to find the salamander cross to break the curse, a journey that sees you transforming into various animal forms to navigate the interconnected world of Monsterland. Although the game doesn't look like much, the game design is absolutely brilliant and way ahead of its time. With smooth zone transitions, upgrades like the ability to walk on certain walls and ceilings, the ability to fly or swim, and progression is gated by acquiring these abilities. This is truly a Metroidvania, buried hidden treasure. Land of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse, 1993. Released late in the Master System's lifecycle, Land of Illusion is widely considered the technical and design peak of Sega's 8-bit Disney collabs. While its predecessor, Castle of Illusion, is more famous, this sequel improves upon it in every way, with a level of polish and fluidity that rivals 16-bit games. The story begins with Mickey falling asleep, only to wake up in a gray village within the Land of Illusion. The villagers tell him that a phantom has stolen the magic crystal, and Mickey must travel across 14 distinct stages to retrieve it, all told through well-illustrated storybook-style cutscenes. What makes Land of Illusion truly ahead of its time is its structural shift from a linear obstacle course to an honest-to-God Metroidvania-like. Mickey gains permanent upgrades throughout his journey, a shrinking potion that lets him fit through tiny gaps, climbing gear for scaling walls, and heavy iron shoes that allow him to walk against strong winds and smash through blocks. Only through thorough exploration of the world can you unlock the secret ending and truly beat the game. Master of Darkness, 1992. While Nintendo had Castlevania 1, I believe that Sega's Master of Darkness is superior to it and way spookier, because the Master System hardware allowed for a larger color palette than the NES. This game had deeper, darker art and rendering than the high-contrast Castlevania. Set in a haunted version of Victorian London, the art direction leans heavily into this unique setting. The foggy banks of the Thames, gaslit cobblestone streets, and rich wood hallways. The environment design is absolutely spectacular, perfectly capturing the creepy London nights. The monster designs are actually creepy as well. The way they move and attack especially. I can easily see a kid getting nightmares after playing this. But gameplay-wise, it's very similar to Castlevania, but you have a larger selection of weapons, from canes, daggers, rapiers, axes, pistols, bombs, boomerangs, stakes, etc. It plays a lot better than Castlevania, while still being as difficult. Horror isn't something that an 8-bit system can pull off really, and yet Master of Darkness pulls it off. Developed by the British studio Codemasters, who would go on to make Dirt and F1, this top-down racer eschews realism for chaotic fun. Instead of racing full-sized cars on asphalt tracks, you race miniature toy vehicles across domestic environments, drifting sports cars around cereal bowls on a breakfast table, piloting speedboats through a bubble-filled bathtub, or driving tanks across a messy school desk. The game captures the childhood imagination of playing with toys beautifully, while still remaining competitive. For example, if a player falls too far behind and drops off the screen, they lose a point, and the race resets from the last checkpoint. This creates a tug-of-war dynamic in the two-player head-to-head mode. The single-player challenge mode is a real gauntlet of difficult races where you have to place first or second to advance, with AI opponents who have distinct names and driving styles. The sprites are tiny but readable, and the scrolling is remarkably smooth even at high speeds. R-Type, 1988. There was no way you could bring the technical arcade beast that is R-Type to an 8-bit console. Even arcade hardware had difficulty with R-Type. There are just too many large sprites moving around at the same time, yet Sega teamed up with Compile and managed it. They didn't manage it well because the game looks, sounds, and plays like hot garbage compared to the arcade original, but remove it from that context, stop comparing it to the original R-Type, and the qualities of this 8-bit port shine. No other shoot 'em up on the 8-bit consoles looks or plays anywhere near as good as this. Retaining like 80%? of the mechanics from the original, it's very clearly an 8-bit game, but it's able to output performance that no other 8-bit title can. It is essentially the entirety of R-Type right there on the home console. If you wanted to beat it while in the comfort of your own home, this was the best way to do it at the time. Space Harrier, 1986. Released as a launch window title, Space Harrier was the game that proved Sega's 8-bit console had raw processing that the NES couldn't match. Porting Yu Suzuki's arcade icon should have been impossible, but this showed the power of the super scalar tech was important to the Sega team. You play as the Harrier, a blonde warrior armed with a massive cannon, flying into a surreal checkerboard landscape to battle various fantasy monsters. It's a rail shooter that moves at high speed, requiring twitch reflexes to dodge trees and pillars that scale smoothly from the horizon to the foreground. And I should put a nausea or epilepsy warning here because this game is known for being very difficult to look at with how fast things are constantly flying towards you. As you constantly fly forward, blasting through waves of enemies such as cyclopses, dragons, gargoyles, etc., while avoiding indestructible obstacles. The Master System version manages to replicate everything well despite the hardware limitations. Fantasy Zone 2, The Tears of Opa Opa, 1987. While most arcade sequels on 8-bit consoles were downgraded ports, Phantasy Zone 2 was designed for the Master System first, so it's able to leverage its specific strengths, as well as the lessons the team learned making the previous game. It's a shoot 'em up, just like its popular original, where you're the sentient spaceship Opa Opa in a surrealist, pastel-painted fantasy world. The game has the unique free-scrolling loop of the original, where you can fly left or right indefinitely to destroy enemy bases, but adds onto it with its warp system. To clear a stage, you must hunt down bases not just on one screen, but across multiple zones accessed via warp gates, taking you between the bright side and the more difficult dark side. Destroying enemies drops coins, which you spend at the balloon shop to purchase temporary weapon upgrades, like the 7-way shot or permanent engine boosts to increase your speed. Despite its cutesy appearance, it's a surprisingly good and challenging shooter that both kids and adults can enjoy. The Lucky Dime Caper, starring Donald Duck, 1991. Considered the best game of the Sega and Disney collab, it plays the DuckTales universe perfectly, casting you as the perpetually ill-tempered Donald Duck. The story starts when the evil sorceress Magica de Spell steals Scrooge McDuck's #1 dime and kidnaps his nephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie and scatters them across the globe. Donald, tasked by Scrooge to retrieve his lucky charm and save the kids as a secondary priority, must travel to locations ranging from the northern woods to the Andes Mountains to set things right. You start with a map of the world and can tackle the first 3 stages in any order you choose to rescue the nephews, much like Mega Man. Donald's primary method of attack is a sledgehammer, but you can upgrade to more ranged weapons. The level design is large, varied, and filled with secrets, encouraging exploration to find diamonds and extra lives. The controls are tight, and Donald moves with responsive weight and momentum. The art is on model with Disney cartoons, and that extends to the cartoony and fun animations, such as Donald's expressive face animations and reactions. Golvellius, Valley of Doom, 1988. Developed by Compile, the studio best known for blistering shooters, this game is a Zelda clone. Not that that's a negative here. You play as Carasis, a green-haired wanderer who stumbles into a crisis. The evil King Golvellius has kidnapped Princess Rena, and the only way to save her is to delve into the monster-infested Valley of Doom. The gameplay is varied, as the overworld is explored from a top-down perspective, where you battle enemies and uncover hidden caves. But entering a dungeon turns the game into a side-scroller, while approaching a major boss area often triggers a vertical scrolling segment where the Screen moves automatically, forcing you to fight while keeping up with the terrain. The game also features an economy system where you farm gold and purchase essential upgrades like boots to walk on water, as well as consumables like buffs and potions. The game world is absolutely humongous for an 8-bit cart, filled with secrets that you'll most definitely need a guide to unearth all of them. Considine, 1988. Often described as Samurai Castlevania, Considine, aka Legend of the Sword Saint, is a moody, atmospheric action-adventure that's one of the Master System's most distinct exclusives. You play as Hayato, a samurai traversing a demon-infested 16th century Japan to recover the 5 secret swords of the Dragon Lord and defeat the warlocks who stole them. Considine features a map of Japan that allows you to choose your route through 16 different provinces, meaning that you can actually finish the game without finding all the swords, but doing so leaves you underpowered for the final battle. The combat is slow and weighty, requiring precise timing, but it evolves as you progress, as by visiting dojos you can learn new moves, such as a jumping vertical slash or a rapid flurry strike. The color palette has washed out somber colors, and the sprite work features grotesque enemy designs based on Japanese folklore, as well as aesthetics based on feudal Japan or samurai media. Zillion, 1987, based on the anime Akaikuren Zillion. This game is said to be better than Metroid Zero Mission. You play as JJ, a member of the White Knights, who must infiltrate the underground base of the Norsa Empire to destroy it and rescue his captured teammates, Apple and Champ. It's a complex action-adventure that requires brain power to beat, as the gameplay loop revolves around room-by-room infiltration, where each room in the massive base is a puzzle filled with traps, sensors, and guard robots. You must destroy canisters to find keycards and input specific 4-digit codes into computer terminals to disable barriers or turn off lights. As you rescue Apple, who is faster and jumps higher, and Champ, who is slower but stronger, you can switch between them on the fly, adding a strategic team management layer to the exploration. The game has a very fun and clean stealth action aesthetic, mirroring the advanced spy designs of the anime it's based on. The base is sterile and filled with robots, and all the animations are very smooth. The sound design is actually very good, especially for an 8-bit sound system. Although the Master System is now long forgotten, it may have actually surpassed the NES when it comes to innovation and tech. From the Ultima-like dungeons, the stealth action, to OutRun, this console showed that it's able to punch way above its class, truly bringing the arcade experience to the living room with high quality.